Hello. Oh, baby. Holy shit. Playoff hockey in overtime is back, and I did not forget, or maybe I did forget. I don't know. I am exhausted. I don't know how the hell these guys do it. I'm exhausted. I need a nap. And meanwhile, these guys play, and Shea Theodore says something along the lines of, yeah, we were fine. We would have played another period. We don't care. Play five more, whatever. These guys are nuts. The what was on the line in that overtime? What was there for that overtime? Understanding that if the Golden Knights give up the next goal, and there were chances for that to have happened, Eriksson Ek getting in there and having a chance late. The power play gets drawn. They had a couple of other chances at front. There were opportunities. What's there and what's possible if that did not go the Golden Knights' way was on the line. And I could feel it with every pass, every time they entered the zone, every moment. Like, this is playoff hockey. We're here. And the good news is it didn't go the way that it might have looked like a little bit once Watt took the power play. Instead, what the Golden Knights have been talking about, not as much I've been talking about, but what the Golden Knights have been talking about for the last couple of days, kind of came to fruition. I'm not sure I'm quite fully on board. I'll talk about that as we go on here. But as I wrote on the little thing underneath me here, you have to make your luck. And I put it in my 3 takeaways, and I think I'm probably going to write an article about it because there's some pretty good quotes about it. The fact of the matter is, in a series like this, and I think we're pretty comfortable now 4 games in by saying one team's not miles better than the other. I think there was a possibility that might have been the case when the series started. There was a chance that maybe Vegas was just a lot better and maybe Minnesota would never come together with all the injuries and coming back and all of that. Instead, I think they're pretty close. So now you have to actually put yourself in the position to make the game go your way. Force the game to go your way. And I thought as we went on, specifically the hurdle goal and then onward, obviously the overtime goal, they forced the game to bounce the way that they wanted. I am in the lobby right by the gates to get into Xcel Energy Center. It's pretty cool. They had the whole thing is kind of like a log cabin. It's a cool concourse. It's a little thin for my liking, especially when they close the little curtains so that you can't see the ice. When the ice is open and you can see the other side, it's a little better, but gets a little thin. Nonetheless, it's a cool arena. It's loud. It's fun. I'm looking forward to coming back. Pretty pumped about that. We have that opportunity thanks to Vegas Night and Day Heating and Cooling, who has sent me to every playoff game for the last 3 years. We'll talk about that. I'm booking my travel already because we're coming back for Game 6, and we might be going deep in this series. We know we got at least a Game 6. Wouldn't shock me if we have a Game 7 and they split the next 2, and then that home ice advantage that they push for all the way is going to come into play. But back to the main story of the game. And there's different ways to look at it. So the reason the Golden Knights are even kind of almost in this game, that's probably a bit of a stretch because it was only 2-1. I guess if it was 2-0, but the first thing is drawing the penalties. And I don't necessarily know the Golden Knights did a ton differently to draw some of the penalties today. Stone's kind of heading in and it's a challenge and it's a moment where it's a forecheck play and he gets high sticked in the face. Like, that's a play where you're playing through someone. That's taking advantage of the rookie there, kind of playing through him, forcing him to make a decision. He makes the wrong one, high stick Stone in the face, and that's effectively why the game is tied. It's beyond that. It's from that moment on that I want to really focus on what occurred and why now you feel like, and maybe if you watch the game, there's 2 kind of ways to feel about it. There's one stream of thought, and I think it's a perfectly fair one. I'm not 100% I'm sure I'm on board with it yet, but there's one stream of thought that says, look, we're getting zone time. We're getting the puck in deep. We're finding ways to get through the neutral zone quickly. We have been able to have bunches of different lines have opportunities in the zone. Eventually, the dam will break, and we will find our goals. That ends up sort of happening, kind of. The other school of thought which is what I think very clearly the Minnesota Wild are on, because John Hines walked into the press conference room and said, we're good. We're in good shape. No problem. I like where we're at. We're going to keep going. The farther this thing goes, the better off it's going to go for us. I'm not sure I agree with him. History indicates he doesn't know what he's talking about based on the fact that he's never won a playoff series in his life. However, they were very confident, and I think for the reason being the fact that that game continued to follow the trajectory of the last two and a bit of game one as well, which is, even though Vegas is getting all this zone time, even though there have been all this pressure coming on Minnesota, they aren't getting the puck to the front of the goal. They aren't winning second chances. They aren't doing the things that are going to actually damage the Wild in a longer sample size, which is now 3 more games over the course of this series. And the reason that I'm kind of on the fence about it is because on one side, I've been listening to this for the last couple of days, and when it's coming from everybody, I'm talking coach, I'm talking players, I'm talking some of the fans, not everybody, but like when most of the message kind of is the same with a group that I know has won the Stanley Cup and has been through some of these battles. I've sat in my spot the entire time through all these battles as well, so I kind of understand how to sift through what's happening. But to me, watching the first or the last 2 games, and I watched them both a second time, I thought for the most part, they're not getting enough in front. They're not deciding to make that play that's going to, quote unquote, force their luck. That's not what was happening. In this game, I thought it got a little bit better. And you look at the 2 goals, the main 2 goals. Like, okay, they get the 2 power play goals. Theodore, good job. The 4-minute power play was basically a disaster until they flubbed 2 clearances. And I have to look back if Vegas's sticks are in there. That was kind of a crazy moment, so we'll see. But the 2 goals afterwards, so you're in the zone, you've got a face-off, and Hertl and Hartman get kind of tangled up. They end up getting taken down to the ground. I don't know what to make of that. Like, it's probably interference on both, but I guess, like, why call that? I don't know. All I know is in a hockey game, that's not allowed, but it did happen, and I don't know who was at fault, and I don't know what you do about it. So here we are. You have 2 dead guys laying on the ice next to the goal, really not seemingly trying to get up. Mark Stone recognizes it, shoots the puck off of them, and it goes into the goal. Like, that's not replicable. We'll take it. It's making your own luck. It's putting the puck in a position to make something happen. And that's because you have all the zone time and you have all these opportunities. But at the same time, that's what it has taken. That was the first 5-on-5 goal since game 2, right? Yeah, game 2. It's been a while. That one goes in. Okay, you've got this one. Now, the overtime goal, they flub a pass, Smith grabs it, puts it to the front, and that's where the work boots get on, right? That's where Barbashev gets to work underneath there. If you look at where Barbashev is when that puck goes to the front, he is nowhere near the position that he needs to be in to win that puck and make it happen. But he works, he gets to the front, he battles, he shovels the thing on goal, and away we go. The series is back to tied. That's making your own luck. That's making your own bounces. That is what you need to do that did not happen in the last 2 games. Are these 2 goals that we saw something that we're going to see going forward? I don't know. That's why I don't know if I'm fully on board with saying this is the formula. Like, I love to walk out of a game, especially a playoff game, especially a massive playoff game like this was for the Golden Knights. I love walking out of these saying, that's it. Do that, and things will be good. I felt a little bit of that in game 1, but then upon rewatch, it almost all disappeared. I felt like Minnesota had a lot of chances that didn't come off in that particular game. Then, as we moved into games 2 and 3, I did not feel that way. That is not the answer. Today, I'm not sure if it's the answer. A lot of things happened, though. A lot occurred to get us to the point where we're at now. And now, as we go forward, hopefully, coaching comes back into play. I think it was crucial in this particular game. I still will argue, I think they missed the hand pass, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward. But mixing up the lines, putting out different situations, benching a couple of guys, having someone ill apparently, all of that occurs, and now we're in a slightly different place. Both teams feel pretty good. It's a 3-game series. Home ice matters, but I don't think it's like a massive thing. Both teams have won on the opposing team's home ice. Both teams have lost and then won on the opposing team's home ice. So we will see. We will see as we go forward what it's going to look like. This Periscope and all Periscopes are brought to you by the Jimmerson Law Firm. The Jimmerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. And I am here in the lobby, on the concourse, right outside of section 102 and 101, next to some sort of tiki shop. I'm on the Kona Big Wave bar, is what I'm utilizing to do this. Because of Vegas Night and Day Heating and Cooling, vkdac.com is the website. You can go there and get 10% off of a new system, and we are now getting closer to getting more off of the new system as we continue to go. And it's getting hot in Vegas. I wish it was hot here. I'm about to have to walk out those doors over there, and I'm terrified of how cold it is over there because it has been cold. I've had my hat on basically the entire time. It is cold, and if you want it to be cold in your house, and if you want to make sure that it remains cold in your house, go to vkdac.com. Schedule them for the pre-summer maintenance special for $50. They'll come out, they'll look at your units, and make sure that it doesn't break. I should have done this last year, and I didn't, and then my unit did break, and then I had to call them out. And on one of the football Sundays, it was a disaster. I had to go up and down and run out of the house and turn the power off. I'll get into it another time. I don't know. It's a disaster. You shouldn't do it. Go to vkdac.com, Vegas Night and Day Heating and Cooling. Okay, so let's talk about the lines, because I think that's the piece that I was surprised at yesterday. I was surprised that when we have the off-day practice in between, that we're not getting a little bit of a shuffle of the lines. I was surprised when we got here this morning or whatever, noon, whatever at time I got here today, when Cassidy came out and said, we're not using anything different. We're going with the same group. It's going to be the same. And I was a little surprised that there's no changes there. And then as we move forward through the warm-ups, now all of a sudden there is one change. Howden moves up, Olofsson's out, Pearson's in. Is that the ill forward? I don't think so, because he said it was one of the guys that was playing. Either way, now you've got one change, but to me, that's like a tweak. That's not a big change, and that ends up impacting the power play in a way that paid off that I don't think it necessarily was expecting to be paid off. I don't know that Riley Smith's the best option there, but he was there. He makes the stick check. You get Theodore to get up top, and now all of a sudden you get a power play goal where you might not have gotten that one if that's a situation where that is Olofsson hopping over the boards instead of Dorofeev as a part of that second unit, or like the 1.5 unit that was out there. So then we get to the third period, and it was partially in some of the second. Golden Knights are behind for a good portion of the second period. We get to the third period and some of the second, and it's like, all right, now Jack and Carlson are together, Hurdle and Stone are together. There's a little bit of mishmash going on the rest of the way. It's like, is it going to be Smith, Barbashev, and Waugh, which ends up being the line that gets the goal? There was a little bit of other guys popping in and out. Over time, we saw Pearson in there at times with Saad. Kolazar was in different places. There was times where Dorofeev was playing with Carlson and Eichel. I think the main key to take away from all of it, beyond anything, is like, okay, so a lot of things went into the lines. A lot of shifting occurred. The number one thing that occurred that really changed all of what was there was that he decided, I'm going to shorten my bench significantly. Cassidy says, I'm going down to less than you could argue it was 11. It actually was only 3 shifts for both Saad and Kolazar in the third period. So now you're down effectively to 9. In that 9, there's only 4 that I want to focus on. And I think the 4 that are most important and interesting as we move forward into Game 5 back in Vegas on Tuesday, not Monday, but Tuesday. Do we have a time for that? We still do not. I don't understand that. They announced the times for Wednesday's games, and we can't get times for Tuesday's games. Either way, all right, that's my yelling about that. The 4 I want to focus on. Eichel's with Carlson, and usually it was Dorofeev or Smith, but the focus is Eichel with Carlson, and then Stone with Hertl. Stone and Hertl, you get the goal. It's not something you draw up. It's not what you imagine when you put those two together, but they do get the goal. I don't know that they were excellent in overtime. Again, overtime is very difficult to really understand what's happening because you're on edge so much watching it that I'm going to have to give that thing another look at some point and get more information. We do have the 2 days, so we will do something probably on Monday night or Monday during the day at some point. We'll have some sort of chat where I've already watched the game and I'm back in Vegas and we'll get ready for game 5. We'll get more information on that. But looking forward, the way that they were attacking with the normal lines that they had was generating much of the same of what we were getting through the last 2 games and a good portion of the first game as well. Time and score, again, you're chasing again. So you're down once again. You do end up with 6 minutes of power play time that really changes the overall sentiment of maybe what happened in that third period and how successful that line combination was. The second period, it did feel like it was getting better. I at one point said to Ed Graney sitting next to me from the RJ, I said, like, Minnesota wants out of this period. Minnesota wants this period to be over, and that's because the Golden Knights were starting to push on them again a little bit more, and I did think there was a little bit more danger in front. If you go to Natural Stat Trick and look up the heat map, it's more in front of the goal. They're starting to generate a little bit more in front of the goal. Also, Minnesota took a defenseman out because he was a disaster in the third period with the high stick, and they were nervous about him. I didn't think he had a good game at all. That's Buium. Maybe he's done for the rest of the series because he's been pretty bad the last 2 games. We'll see how that goes. That may allow them to utilize 6 defensemen moving forward, where they basically went down to 5, and Bogosian didn't play a lot either. Middleton ends up flubbing a pass with like 3 minutes left late in a fourth period of a game. Possibly that's fatigue getting in the way. So maybe that worked out in Vegas's favor. But that group, I have massive reservations for utilizing Eichel and Carlson together over the course of an entire game. I just don't know that that can work long term. Like it just scares me a little bit because that's loaded up to a level where you don't have a lot of other options defensively. And I wonder, and I'm scared that if this game is tighter, if these games are not an overtime game like it was, and if we're in a first period where the game is tied, that if they can find shifts for that top line away from that group, that they're going to pick on anyone else. And all of a sudden, now a series that hasn't really been predicated on matchups suddenly will be. They go to it in overtime. Overtime, typically, and this was another example of one of those, you don't see a lot of whistles. You don't see a lot of penalties. You don't see stoppages. Things have to be really obvious for us to get that choppy play over or in an overtime, and therefore hard matching is much more difficult. Plus, you've now thrown something at them in the middle of the game that they may not be ready to counter and do anything against. Again, I think the coaching advantage is massively in Vegas's corner, and I think that showed up in this particular game. So in that situation, that seemed to be fine for overtime. Was it good? I don't know. I don't know that it was great. I don't know that Hertl and Stone were great. You get the opportunity. It's a lost draw, by the way, for everyone yapping at me about faceoffs. The Golden Knights won the game because they lost a faceoff in the offensive zone. Again, they have continued to lose faceoffs and win games, or win a faceoff and lose the rest of them. Either way, enough with the faceoffs. It does not make a difference the overall stat. And most of them, if you just do the right thing, if you're Minnesota, all you have to do is flip that puck out into center, and away we go. That's not what happened. Instead, Golden Knights do the right thing, force a little bit of pressure on him. He turns it over. Now they absolutely do the right thing. Smith to the goal, get the puck to the goal. That's what needed to happen, and that's exactly what did happen. And so therefore, you end up in a much better position to get away from what happened on the actual faceoff. But getting to the front is crucial. Do I think that a Smith, Barbashev, Waugh line can get to the front? I do, but I also have reservations of what does that look like against anyone else for a long stretch of time. Like, there's a reason why we came into this series with the lines set up the way that they have been, the way that they were to start 4 games in a row here. Technically, it changes a little bit because Olofsson moves out, Pearson moves up, Olofsson, Howden goes up, whatever. But my point is the top 6, the like overall feel of Carlson and Smith together, and then the 4th line being Watt and Kolazar together, like all of that together, it's because it really does make the most sense. It offers balance. It allows you to roll lines. It makes you fairly like matchup proof to a degree. I don't know that that's fully the case because you look at the offensive numbers have not been massive in these particular games with getting to the front of the goal. So that's where I'm at on that one. On the ill player, so Cassidy mentioned that they had to make a few changes due to having a player who grew ill in between period 2 and 3. I then asked, who is that player? Do you want to reveal that? He basically said no, told us it was a forward, and then said something along the lines of, I don't know why I don't want to tell you, Ken, but I don't. And so he didn't. And then I asked later, and he still didn't. So I don't know. Could it be Pearson? It's probably Pearson, Saad, or Kolazar. Those are the 3 likely scenarios. Pearson did not play a single shift in the 3rd period. He's the one that makes the most sense. Saad or Kolazar potentially makes sense because if you decide one of those is sick, I can't use them as much, but now we got to figure out what do we do. Pearson becomes the obvious one of saying, well, we got to pull the plug on him and go down to 3 lines. So I think it's probably one of those 3. If it's not, I'm not really sure what to make of that. I don't know. We were supposed to get Stone and Barbashev in the press conference, but the Minnesota press conference took forever to begin. There's also an overtime game, and the Golden Knights have to get out of here. They are flying tonight. So we ended up not getting Barbashev and Stone. So maybe it could be them. I would assume not, based on the fact that they both were there and playing most of the time. I don't know. Wah talks, so I'm assuming it's not him. I'd go through some of the other guys I saw in the lineup, or in the locker room. But again, like the most likely guess is it's one of those 3. And then Cassidy said he's not sure how that's going to look. They do have a few different days here. They do have to fly. So we will see what's going to occur from that. On the goals and the challenges, so this is one that I want to kind of look at through the lens of, here's something that's real positive about how this game went, because it goes to overtime. The Golden Knights do find a way in overtime. They get the job done by getting to the front of the goal and doing the thing that they have not been doing in the last 2 games. And included among that is that it's a 4-3 game, and I don't think 2 of the goals for Minnesota could have counted. Arguably, probably, maybe even both should not have counted. Let's start with the hand pass. So here's my theory on the hand pass. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I sent this out. I have a little bit more time now that I get to talk it out loud to explain what happened. And I ran it by a couple of people in the media room, and they do seem to agree. Cassidy did not, but also I didn't get a chance to run my entire theory through Cassidy. Maybe he would change his mind. I don't know. He's a pretty wise guy. He probably doesn't want to listen to what I have to say. Hopefully you guys do. So here's what I think. The puck comes from behind the goal. Zuccarello has it. He brings it out to the top of the circle. When he goes to shoot it at the goal, there's a stick check. I believe it was Pavel. I'm not 100% sure, but there's a stick check. On that stick check, the puck goes high up into the air. There's a battle right in front of the goal. Now, potentially a cross check. You could argue that it's a shove. There's a lot of big boy battles that go on in front of the goal. The Golden Knights lose the big boy battle in front of the goal. Foligno shoves Pietrangelo out of the way. He goes up and puts a glove on it. I think it's abundantly clear on the video that he does get a hand on it. So now he has touched it with his hand, which means if the next player to play it is a Minnesota Wild player, that the play should be stopped. Now, bear in mind, This is a challengeable play because back in 2019, the NHL fucked up a call with the Sharks and the Blues, and therefore they decided let's have hand passes be a reviewable thing. So it is reviewable. So sometimes we have to keep that in mind because at times you have situations where the referee says, I'm not sure. It could be the ref or the linesman. You could say, I'm not sure. I'll let it go because we could challenge it. So the puck now falls down directly into the low slot. It's on the ice. It looks to me like Hanifin pushes it forward with his stick, which means the Golden Knights have now played it. However, that would be considered possession. And in the event that that is considered possession, and I'm going to look at this again while I do that, that would mean that we have only assists available from that moment forward. And yes, now that I'm looking at it, it is still there. So I can continue on with my theory. The theory is that later in the game, they go back and they call that Zuccarello had an assist on the goal, which means that Zuccarello, who shot the puck from the top of the circle, that was poked up into the air. A blocked shot does not take away an assist, so that's fine. Puck goes up in the air. It's gloved by Foligno. When he puts it down to the ice, now it's moved out to Hartman. Hartman shoots it, save, Foligno puts it in. If Zuccarello has an assist on that, that means that possession did not change in between the hand pass and the puck going to Hartman, because otherwise Zuccarello does not get an assist on that. He originally did not have the assist. After review, now they have given an assist. And usually those reviews are very in-depth to make sure that they get the players the points that they're supposed to have. It's also now in this case telling us that's a hand pass. That must have been a hand pass, because if the Golden Knights touched it, then that would wipe out the Zuccarello assist. That's not what happened. So it's a hand pass. So to me, that's not even a good goal. And is how it occurred something that's potentially replicable for them? Yeah, Foligno standing in the front, Hartman gets it in the low slot and shoots it on goal. Yes, of course, that is something that potentially they could get and look to get moving forward. However, in this particular spot, that's not a goal. I don't believe that's a goal. I believe that's a hand pass. And that's based solely on I don't have enough time to see it. I know that the league has enough time to see it, and they made the decision. So I think a challenge there possibly ultimately wins. Do they figure it out fast enough? I don't know. Either way, we go on to the other one. Cassidy said he thought Hanifin moved it out. So that's why they didn't challenge. The other one is the wraparound. So now you've got Kaprizov standing at the top of the crease. He's right on the red paint next to the blue paint that indicates the crease, right? That's there. There's a little red line. He's right on that. It's really close. As the puck goes around, Hill wants to come back to his right. So he tries to go back to his right, or is it his left? No, it's his right. It was down here. It was over there. So he wants to come down to his right. And as he does that, I think Kaprizov gets a little bit of him. The argument is, did Theodore shove him in? Are we in the situation there? They decide, because of how the Golden Knights are playing and the risk of that call not going a way that you might want it to go, they decide not to do it based on the game state, not as much based on we don't believe that this is goalie interference. I think in a regular season game, they probably challenge that one. In the playoffs, Cassidy said, if that's the go-ahead goal, I probably challenge that because we need that goal to come off. You don't necessarily need it to come off in a tie game, as we then saw as the game went on, as the Golden Knights won it in overtime. I think there's a legitimate case for that coming back for goalie interference. So now, Foligno hand pass, Spurgeon wraparound, Kaprizov gets the piece of the goalie. They might have only had one goal today, right? And it comes off exactly the same problem that Vegas has had. Now, that is a concern that I will continue to have as we go forward in this series, because look at portions of the end of the third period, portions of right when they get that goal, and then some of the overtime. Getting the puck out of the zone was challenging. And against this team, it's going to continue to be challenging. I don't think you could just shut off the turnovers. They're going to have some turnovers. Oh, and yeah, this was kind of mentioned in the post game. So what happened last night, there's a goalie interference or something close. Evander Kane's in tight, and he shoves the puck towards the goal, and Kemper's kind of laying there dead, and the puck goes underneath him, and there's maybe goalie interference, there's maybe not goalie interference. That goal tied the game. The Kings decide to challenge it. They lose the challenge. Power play, 5 seconds later, 10, whatever it was. Puck's underneath Kemper again into the back of the goal. And basically, based on that situation alone, it went from Kings lead by 1 to Kings now trail by 1, completely flips the game, and probably won the Oilers that game. Cassidy said he watched it. He didn't have the sound on. He was talking to his family, which is that good for him. But that particular case, I think, probably did weigh on him a little bit in thinking, like, what do I do in that situation? Would I challenge in that situation? He opts to not. And I can't sit here and say it's the right decision. I guess in the end, like, you win the game, so you can say it's the right decision, but also, like, they didn't score right after. He felt good about where they were headed down the stretch of that third period. They do not get the goal there. So now it's reset. It goes into overtime. They did take the penalty. Like, that game could have gone the other way based on not challenging that one. So process-wise, it's tough. I would love to know if they can send it into the league and say, what would have happened here? So we get a little bit more information. I doubt that that's actually going to happen because I don't think the league actually knows, which is ridiculous. Okay, so if anybody has questions about what's going on, I'll kind of wrap it up on this. If you have questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat. Thanks again to the Jimmerson Law Firm for sponsoring all my Periscopes this season. There will be one after every single playoff game, and now we're guaranteed at least 2 more, which is nice. Could have been only 1 more if they had not figured a way to get this one. So we got at least 2 more, and we're hoping for a bunch more after that. As my overall sense of the series, when we came up here, and I don't know if I said this on one of the Periscopes or not, or one of the Twitter spaces or whatever. I always believed that they were going to get game 4. And game 3 was the one that I wasn't really sure about because I wasn't sure how the response was going to be. And it ended up being bad. I don't know that response was necessarily the reason why they fell behind in game 3 and why they ultimately lost game 3, but it wasn't a great response to where it's like, well, we're just going to score 3 goals in them quickly. Actually, that's what's going to happen to you instead. Either way, game 3 was the one I was nervous about. Game 4, I've always felt that Vegas was going to find a way to get this one. No matter whether they had won game 3 or lost game 3, I felt like as they settled into the crowd, the scenario, the team that they're playing against, all of it, I thought they were going to get it. So in this particular game, I felt pretty confident coming in that they were going to get it. Now, as it goes on, they take the lead. It's a power play goal. As we move forward, now we're in the situation where now you're behind. We get to the third period. The Minnesota Wild are 31-0-0 when they lead heading into the third period. And you're like, uh-oh, are we seeing kind of a little bit of a repeat of what has happened before? And you look up on the board and the Golden Knights have 0 even strength goals after 2 periods. And I'm like, uh-oh, here we go again. Then they tie it, and it's like, all right, well, that's another power play goal. And my mind is telling me, like, are you going to get 5 power plays again? Are you going to kill off their 1? And it was 5-1 at that point. And I know it's a couple of them are high sticks, and don't get me wrong, refs were bad. They missed a few that Vegas could have got even more. They missed a number that Minnesota could have had. I thought Vegas benefited from a few of them. I thought the breakaway, the stretch pass, from Faber up the middle to Brazo. It might have been Trennan. I think it was Brazo. I know it was that line. I thought that was onside. So that's one that they get a break on. I know that there's the one where Zuccarello gets hit by Stone, and it looked like the replay maybe said that was a bit of a dive. Problem is, when the penalties are 5-1, typically they're going to call that. They end up not calling it, and away we go. So it's like then the 5-on-5 goal. So the one is the dead guys on a battle with Hartman and Hurdle doing some WWE shit off to the side, and then Mark Stone being really smart and shooting the puck off of him, and it trickles a path past the line. Like, that's not that doesn't give me a lot of hope that, like, oh, the new lines created rush chances and created chances in front. Like, doesn't really give it to me. And then overtime is a mistake, and a bad mistake that's unforced, I would say. I'd have to look at that maybe a little bit closer. Maybe there is a little bit of pressure on him. I just think he picks his head up and flubs it. And from there, way to go for the Golden Knights to get the job done and get it in front. But, like, if those two don't happen, we're looking at a loss clearly, and then we're talking about the exact same things we talked about again game 3. And so basically it comes down to a couple of things that occur that go your way, and now all of a sudden the series is back to tied. But, like, the overall balance of it, I don't know. I don't know that I feel great about it. I don't think that Eichel and Stone all of a sudden took the step forward and are ready to dominate the series. I don't know that they actually figured out how to defend against Kaprizov, Boldy, and Eriksson Ek. I don't know that they're going to be able to shut down the forecheck as they go forward. I thought they got better as this game went on, but also you're losing, which means less forecheck. Minnesota's winning. So that's tricky. So all of that combined, it's like, we got a 3-game series. Golden Knights have home ice advantage. There is an injury on the other side. There is potentially them having to take a player out because he's not been good enough on the other side. So that occurs. Granted, that player possibly got the Golden Knights back in the game with the 4-minute high stick and Bouillon. So I think it's fairly even. Like, the odds said that it was even on William Hill. It said basically, I think it was 110 aside after game 3. So we're at 2-1 and it's 110 aside. So the Golden Knights are going to be fairly heavy favorites as we move forward in the series on William Hill. But I don't know that I feel that way. Do I think they can win the series? Of course, absolutely. And I said that before. I thought, yeah, they still can. Would I stand here and tell you that they are definitely going to win the series and I feel very confident about it? I don't. I just don't. I think they have a chance to win this. I think that the two teams are evenly matched more than most people would consider. I do think there is a huge advantage in coaching. And the further series go, typically the more coaching matters. So we'll see on that. What did I think? What did you think the main adjustment to help manage Boldy's forecheck? Not a lot. Like, really not a lot. He had a couple of chances. They got a couple of opportunities. They were forechecking fairly well. I think maybe there were the only thing that I noticed live, and usually I see a little bit more of this upon the rewatch, which will happen tomorrow night or on the plane or something like that. Usually we get more from that. But, like, the thing that I did see is I thought they were kind of limiting the seam passes on Kaprizov a little bit more, and he started realizing, I'm just going to throw the puck to the goal. Maybe I'm confirmation biasing that based on overtime, but I thought I saw a little bit more of that. So that is one where we'll see how that goes, but I don't think they, like, neutralize the Boldy forecheck, or they've neutralized Foligno on the forecheck, or even the fourth line. Like, that's a fourth line that shouldn't be very dangerous. They have goals in 2 games in a row. Marco Rossi has a pair. So we'll see. We'll see what goes forward with that. Seeing how the first penalty power play group was pretty stagnant, do you think we'll see more of the second? I don't. I think that, yes, the first power play group was stagnant, but I also think that the stagnant portion of it was more so because it was limited zone time. And then the clock kind of winds down and it felt like they probably could have shot and they didn't. So that did occur. But no, I think they're still going to go 80% of the time, 70 goes to that top unit. And we'll see how that's going to go, because one of the concerns I had coming in, and I think it's still a big time concern that we have, is the fact of the matter is they just aren't going to get scoring from the rest of the group of wingers. And one of them's now sitting up in the press box who was actually seemingly close. Saad has been close, but for the most part, you can't expect it. Pavel at 5-on-5 hasn't been good. Today was bad. Again, maybe we'll get more when I see it again, but he was not good. Could not really finish a play, could not win one of these stick battles, couldn't hold guys off. Ends up being yanked off the power play due to a bad play in the neutral zone on one of the entries. Like, that's concerning. Like, I don't want 4 playoff wins. I want 16. We're at 2, right? Like, okay, yeah, you got to get 4 at a time. You got to dispatch the other team and get 4 at a time, and maybe he can grow and get better. But, like, I don't think there's a lot of faith, at least not for me, that wherever you stick him, that he's going to all of a sudden come alive. And, like, if it's next to Jack and Carlson, if it's next to Stone and Hurdle, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to end up going. So in that sense, again, like, power play, yeah, I think Dorofeev's probably going to stick on it. It's been good. But do I think this is a game that wakes VGK up? I don't. If you think that they've been asleep or not engaged or whatever word you want to use, not hungry enough, if you think that that was occurring in games 2 and 3, certainly in game 3, maybe you can get away with it a little bit in game 2, but certainly in game 3, this game looked like it. This game looked similar. The ability to get into the zone, the willingness to get to the front was more limited than it probably needs to be. They're not winning second chances. They're not creating that extra pass from side to side that's getting Gustafsson moving, because that's the only thing that Minnesota really tries to defend against. Power play got 5 chances. Like, this is one of the best power plays in the league. They got 5 chances. What is it if they get 2? And what does it look like if all of a sudden they do start swallowing the whistles back? Like, it's concerning in the fact that, like, when we walked into this series, we thought one team's better, that the Golden Knights get on their game, play the way they can, do the things they should, they'll win this series, because Minnesota never wins playoff series and John Hines has never won a playoff series. Like, those things were there. 4 games in, I don't feel that way. I feel like they have to outplay them at some point in a way that they probably even haven't yet. Today was maybe the closest, probably was the closest, but I don't know that I'm there yet. So it's going to be tight. And I'm trying to not look forward to, like, beyond this, because I think it gets dirty if you start doing that in, like, you're talking about things that may not ever matter. But, like, that is a concern too, because I think the teams that are up next are better than this. And that's not to say this team's bad. I don't think Minnesota's bad. I've been trying to say that the entire time. I don't think they're bad. I do think this was a better game for the Golden Knights. I thought that some of the willingness to get in front, some of the actual pucks that made it to the goal were a little bit better, but also you're the team down. And the way that these things go, when you're the team down, usually you're the one with the more desperation. The Golden Knights were the team with more desperation. In the other games, when it's been a little bit closer to equal with the desperation meter, game 3 being probably the best example, which is that we're, yes, Minnesota's coming off the loss, but it's an even game coming into here. I don't think the Golden Knights were that much better. And also, again, like, I can't get off the fact that, like, the games didn't look that different. This one ends with Vegas winning in overtime. That one ended with Minnesota winning by 3. Where do the next ones go? I don't know. This team camaraderie looks better than last year's team. I don't agree with that. I think it's very similar. I wouldn't, like, I think that it's easy to feel that after there's a game-winning goal in overtime and then everyone rushes onto the ice. Like, you're going to see excitement. You're going to see thrilling stuff. But I think, like, 2 hours before, when it's 2-1 and they get their second goal, like, no one really feels that way. So I don't feel like it's all that different. I still believe that team was better than this team, but I also think that Dallas team was probably better than this Minnesota team. So that doesn't mean they have to lose this series. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a grind. Like, you got to win 2 out of 3 now. We got it from 3 to 4 down to 2 out of 3. Okay, so we're there. So now you got to find a way to win 2 out of 3. You got 2 home games. Again, not sure that's going to make a huge difference in the way that the series is going to go. You maybe slowed up Kaprizov and Boldy a little bit. Maybe. Not even sure that happened. So on we go. We will go to game 5. That's going to be on Tuesday. I hope that we get a time at some point soon that we can get more information on that. Then we'll be back up here for game 6 on Thursday, the 1st, May 1st. And then we'll see where we go from there. Like I said, after game 3, it was tough when you're down. It's tough when you're in a situation where you feel like it's slipping away from you. It now hasn't slipped away, but I don't think they took the firm grasp of it like the scoreboard necessarily says, right? Like the scoreboard says 2-2. The scoreboard says home games for Vegas, away games for Minnesota. Vegas is in better position. The odds are going to say the Golden Knights are 2-1 favorites from this point forward. I don't feel that way. I feel like it's a coin flip or something close to a coin flip. Maybe Vegas is a little bit on the right side because of the history, because of everything that goes into how much of a massive moment this is for Minnesota and their coach and their team and their city and all of that compared to what it would mean for the Golden Knights who have been there, who have done that. I think sometimes when you look at that, it actually is less pressure on Vegas, the team that has been there. Sometimes that does lead to lack of desire. It's probably not the right term. You see what I'm saying? Like the other team has unsatiable desire and you have pretty good desire. I think that is possible. So that's why I look at this and say game 5 is going to be massive. And what's weird is I don't think the winner of game 5 necessarily has to win the series. I think we're basically flipping a coin 3 times. And the way that the games have gone, the last 3, Vegas loses 2 of them. They win this one. I thought game 1 looked a little bit different than the next 3. And that's typically normal. So away we go with looking at these 3. How is it going to go? I don't know. And yeah, this is a fair question. Is Cassidy not making a big deal or saying we need to get better about turnovers? Where are the answers? Yeah, I don't know that they got way better. I really don't know that it's gotten way better. And I don't know that it is going to get way better, at least not in this series. So we'll see. Thanks again to Jimmerson Law Firm sponsoring all of my Periscopes this season. And of course, Vegas Night and Day Heating and Cooling for sending me on the road. I'm here now. I will be back in whatever it is, 5 days. Today's Saturday. I'll be back on Wednesday night. So I'll be back pretty soon, not that long away from here. We'll be back for game 6. If you want to learn more about the series, go to Minnesota.vegas, just Minnesota.vegas. It'll forward you to our series hub. That's brought to you by .vegas. Good stuff there. Injuries, lineups, all odds, you name it. Not updated right now because I'm doing this and I'm about to walk back to my hotel and then update everything else. So that's all I got for tonight. Golden Knights have tied the series at 2. Ivan Barbashev is now the 9th player to score an overtime game-winning goal for the Golden Knights. There's technically a 10th. Alex Tuch scored in the bullshit bubble round robin games. Those are stupid. I don't count that. Ivan Barbashev is now the 9th. Amazingly, no one has done it twice. So let's try to not get to too many more overtime games because if no one can do it twice, we're running out of guys. But here we are, 2-2. Series is tied. We can all back off the ledges a little bit because it would have been really, really bad if it were 3-1. It's not. We're back to a neutral spot. We're back to a neutral state. Now, I do think they've got to play a little bit better. They've got to find more to the inside, and I think they can do that. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I don't know. We will find out. We will find out Tuesday at a time still to be determined. It's 8 o'clock here, and we still don't know what time they're playing on Tuesday. The Golden Knights are in the air probably almost, heading on their way home. We still don't know what time they're playing on Tuesday. Whatever. It'll probably be 6 or 7 or 8 or 8:30 or 9. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. That's it.